So, as always, the session today will be interactive, so there will be opportunities for question and answers. Tom invites you. If you have any questions at any time, you may type them in the chat, and we'll be able to answer them at the Q&A session at the end. This session will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Yeah. So as always, we start with a bit of meditation to settle in. So if you already have your own practice, please feel free to do that and ignore the guidance. However, you're also very welcome to listen to the guidance of this meditation. So wherever you are, I just invite you to find a comfortable posture with your feet on the floor. You can wiggle your body a little bit. You may be sitting in the chair all day or a bit tight in different places. So just find how your body feels the most comfortable. And you may close your eyes at your own pace and just find how you feel the most comfortable with your spine upright and relaxed. And take a few deep breaths in and out. Breathing with your whole body expanding and contracting. Finding relaxation in the out breath. And come back to normal breathing at your own pace. Just notice the touch points between your body and the floor or the chair. Feel the body supported by the ground and the chair beneath you. Notice the sensations in your body. Sensations may be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. They're all okay. Just notice them. Notice the sensations as they appear, as they change, as they stay there or disappear. Thoughts or feelings or distractions may arise. That is okay and very normal. Simply note them and come back to noticing the sensations in the body. These sensations are natural occurrences. They're not you. They change. They come and they go. Simply notice them and how they feel. You may find the tension gravitating towards certain tensions. That's normal. Simply notice the tension as it is. Notice how it changes. Get stronger or softer. If it becomes too much, you may find a more pleasant spot or feeling in the body to come back to. There's no need to fight with any sensations. Notice that sensations come in and out of our awareness. If there's no sensations at any particular time, simply just be. Just be with the vast, open awareness. Anything is okay in meditation. The important aspect is the awareness in the present moment. at your own time, I invite you to come back to the environment around you. You may wiggle your toes or fingers. You may move your body slowly and open your eyes at your own pace. Just reflect on how this experience was for you. How do you feel now? And how was that meditation for you? Hey! And with that, I pass over to Tom. Thank you so much for coming and giving this talk.
Oh, thank you, Sophia. Very happy to be here with my Metta Dharma community buddies. Uh, it's wonderful. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which Ling and I and Kissy are on at the moment, which is in the Darug Nation, and pay respects to elders past and present. And as it happens today, we were down at the book barn and I just came across something that quite well reflects the character and spirit um, from for us as humans. Um, and this relates to a book that uh, these Pitjantjatjara men, elders, were getting together, a group of them, to do this huge painting. And one of them was talking about another member of the group. And here is what he said about him. Julpa, which is elder, Kunamara Gordon Ingat, was a highly principled man and lived by the values of unconditional giving, generosity, always being friendly, happy, taking seriously his role as a teacher, holding law strong and being a strong man, and never forgetting to love. So maybe that's all we need to say tonight as a response to the modern crises. Um, but that really was quite inspiring for me. And in the promotion material, there's a little story about the little hawk. And so one day I was down at Nantien Temple and uh, as often as I can, I trudge up the hill at the back of the temple. And this particular day, there was this howling gale blasting up the hill. And there I was at the top, my hair's all going everywhere. And I looked out and there was a little hawk, just a small hawk, not a big hawk. And incredibly, as the wind was rushing and buffeting up the slope, this little hawk was hovering stationary. It's like, my gosh. And you could see how it was like just making little fine adjustments to stay in the same position, even though the wind was so strong and so buffeting. And of course, it had its attention and focus on what it was about, which is like finding something to eat, I imagine. And so that seemed to me such a great metaphor for the modern crises and how we can be like that little hawk uh, in that buffeting crisis and still be keeping our balance and keeping our focus and attention on what is it that we decide to, how we decide to respond to what's going on. So just a little bit more about my Buddhist journey. So back in Perth, at the end of the hippie era, that was me. We started reading about Buddhism, and I was reading the Three Pillars of Zen by Roshi Philip Kapleau. And in there, because it's like one of the first Buddhist book I read, in there he mentioned that you could become a Buddhist by saying, I take refuge in the Sangha, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha 3 times, and you would be a Buddhist. And so I went outside to the front yard on the next to the highway underneath a little willow tree, and I took refuge and became a Buddhist. Um, because when I tell the reverends that kind of story now, they say, "Oh, well, you must have been a Buddhist in your last life, mate." But but that started a long journey. So I met Prakantipalo in Perth. He was one of my first Buddhist teachers. Later on, I went to Chen Rizig Institute for Wisdom Culture and did the month-long Lam Rim discourse. And then I kind of slacked off quite a bit. There was one point there when, if you asked me what the Four Noble Truths were, I couldn't tell you. But anyway, I think I've smartened up my game a bit in more recent times, and been paying attention to lots of things happening here in Sydney. In fact, Ling and I had the good fortune to go to Sri Lanka a few years ago with Bande Sujato to do a teaching meditation retreat on the subject of early Buddhist meditation. And Bande Sujato would, give 3 talks a day, and he would have the English from Sutta Central up on the screen, his translation, and the Pali. And as he was talking about what the content of the sutta was, he'd be also talking about, how he's getting from the Pali and a bit more in depth about the translation and how all that worked. So that was a pretty wonderful experience at the Nagananda Institute for International Buddhist Studies. And so when we came back, we started reading the Pali Canon and got through it in 18 months, just a bit by bit, day by day. And so there's quite a few things that jumped out at me and really made an impact. And I'll refer to some of those as we go through the session tonight. And of course, keep in mind that I'm not a Dharma teacher. And really, I see my role here is that I've uh, can relate to you, report to you the kind of things that I've been doing, and the kind of things that have been helpful for me in my learning about the Dharma and other things as well, especially in relation to having the climate change and things like that. And more recently, I think, and I did a course at Nanting Institute, especially with Reverend Jue. It was called Buddhism in Modern Times, and this is where this concept of the modern crises kind of got crystallized through that. And so that's how we're going to proceed tonight. And so just a quick overview of the layout for tonight. So I'll talk briefly about the modern crises, as we're not here to dive into the depths and details of the ins and outs of that, but just like a list basically of the kind of things we might think that is, and how we kind of feel about it and what happened, how it impacts us. And then see what kind of opportunity there is that we have in response to that. And then what is it that I've been drawing on in order to navigate that situation, what I'm aiming for in trying to respond to that, and the kind of things that I'm doing. And then we'll talk about having a plan actually towards the end. Um, so that's the brief overview. And I'm expecting that we might have about 3 breakout sessions so we can get into groups of 4 roundabout and have a discussion on what on the topic and explore that a bit for ourselves. Because I see that what I'm doing here is really, if I'm relating, how I do things, that's not just necessarily going to be how you would approach it, but then perhaps it can trigger discussion about and thoughts for yourself about how that's going to work for you or not. And so that's what the breakout rooms are for. And then when we come back from the breakout rooms, we'd ask people to make a comment or two, and also encourage you to write something in the chat as well, because we won't have time for everybody to speak all through those ones. Okay. So, the modern crises. Let's think about a few things. One of the things, obviously, for me, is climate change. Um, that's Ling and I have been kind of associated with that and working on it for quite some time. We co-founded Parramatta Climate Action Network or I think it was about in the year 2000. And there's all sorts of things other than that. There's environmental crises as well. As you know, there's things about pollution, uh, dead zones in the ocean. Um, there's also things like AI, the big unknown. Um, is it going to be good or is it going to be bad or is it going to be a mix of things? We can think about misinformation as being part of the crisis. We can think about political turmoil, um, the kind of wars that we're having as well. Um, and, the list goes on. And these things are, and social and personal things. So, uh, people, youngsters being anxious, depressed, um, and there being social unrest around the place as well. So um, no doubt you can add a few things yourself. And so that kind of dynamic presents in three ways, I think. So in one way, there's what we know about any particular thing about the crises. Uh, so we can read about climate change. So probably 5 years before 2000 or even earlier, I was reading about it. And so I get to understand and have some idea about what climate change potentially could mean for us all. And then seeing the impact of a crisis situation. And so with climate change, we're certainly uh, starting to see that more and more. Um, and there's a big list of things that where we can relate weather events to climate change, like extreme weather events. But there's also when we actually get to experience the impact of them. Uh, so people experiencing flood, uh, fires, heat waves, and the like. And so this is things that might be seemingly a bit distant or something that's really in your face. Now, on the other side of that, it's not all bad news. Uh, I like to say that if you go onto the internet and you start to say, I'm just going to focus on good news and go looking for good news, then you'll find plenty. In fact, you'll never get to the end of it because there's a lot of terrific things happening. People are responding, people and organizations and governments are getting on with things to address issues. So it's not all doom and gloom, but um, I had to face up to the thought that, well, perhaps climate change is going to be so severe that we're all going to die. That's not going to be much fun. Well, as Buddhists, maybe we don't say that. But it could be to that extent. So I think that's something I've had to come to terms with. Is just that it could be existential. Uh, but if you think about regenerative agriculture, there's so many people getting into that. There's so many good things about renewable energy. Uh, I mean, there's a huge, great list of things. And of course, it's just like people being nice to each other. It doesn't hit the news like too much um, in your face. But just imagine if all the good actions that people are doing didn't exist, then we think about how bad it really is. But actually, uh, in my day-to-day experience, people are uh, really good to each other and look after each other. So, So these crisis type things affect us in body, mind, and spirit. And, it's easy to be affected and to react to those kind of things, to those events. And so, to see floods is kind of makes you anxious. To think about, if you pay attention, if you get caught up into some misinformation, it can be making you anxious. And with uncertainty and fear and insecurity. So these kind of feelings can come up and they're real. You can feel shock. I mean, I read Climate Code Red by David Spratt. And even though I knew about climate change, once I've finished reading that, I actually physically felt in shock. So there was, really hit home. And so those kind of reactions are real. And I think it's like acknowledging that those reactions are part of us and they're a good thing because they're telling us something about the situation and telling us about ourselves as well, that we care about these things. And so the opportunity then is in having a response to these situations. And I think it's as simple as that in a sense. When we can respond to a situation, then there's an opportunity for us to be mindful and look at how we can create a different path or a different way of living and examine what we're doing and what we want to do and develop a response to that. And so that's the opportunities for us to be able to develop a response and get on with something um, and not necessarily get stuck in the emotions and reactions that come about. And so, Tom, can I develop a response? I think I can. It's like Thomas the Tank Engine going up the hill. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And the the Buddha also thinks we can too. So this is a good thing because he just reminds us that our human capabilities are able to make a difference and allow us to develop a response to situations. And so the opportunity in developing a response is to be motivated by the crisis situations, be motivated to take some action, to think about it and search for ways for dealing with it within ourselves. And so if we deal with it in ourselves and start to come to terms with it, then I believe that puts us in a better position to actually go and do things in the world because we're more settled and steady and secure in what we are doing. And so what is it that I draw on in order to respond? So there's the spiritual side of things, and that's very important to me to be able to say that the spiritual as a person, as a human, is a very important part of me and allows me to be in a certain way that I can develop a response from that point of view rather than just being pragmatic and practical. And of course, I draw on the Dharma as well, what the Buddha taught, and what other teachers have taught, as Buddhist teachers have taught as well. And I can also draw on the people around me, people near. They're very important to helping me stay uh, connected and engaged, um, and be looked after and look after, and also people who are far away too. There's a lot of people who I haven't met personally, but have influenced my thoughts and feelings about how to respond. I can also draw on trust, trust myself and have that feeling that there is uh, lots of things that I can come up with that will help me navigate the situation. And so sometimes maybe we think that we're a bit too much on the greed, anger, and ignorance side of things. But keeping in mind that the Buddha tells us that wisdom comes into play. And so that's another thing, is that we can trust ourselves that we have wisdom, um, and can come up with appropriate ways of being and doing in these times. And there's also, I would like to draw on the wisdom and knowledge of my ancestors as well. I mean, one straightforward thing to think about is, well, this is not the only time that there's been a modern crisis. I mean, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, is that what they called it? When things went pear-shaped? Oh, we're having a modern crisis because uh, because of, natural disasters or wars and armies or plagues and pestilence, famines, etc. But our ancestors, I mean, the reason that we're here is that our ancestors were able to navigate those situations, survive, and get back into thriving. And they used a lot of different talents, and they employed the spiritual as well to help uh, keep themselves and the families and communities and societies going. And also, I can draw on nature. Nature plays a big part in my life, and nature can be a great model for how we live. Thinking about how, well, nature never gives up, right? Um, I've just finished doing a permaculture design course recently, and you look at some of the situations that permaculture people have gone into, which is like the Greening the Desert project in south of Amman in Jordan, where Jeff Lawton has got this Greening the Desert project. And the before picture of this piece of land that they had, there was just dirt and rock, in the whole area, hardly any trees. And so by giving nature a helping hand and working in conjunction with nature, 10 years later, they have this thriving food forest, this green patch in amongst this sandy desert. And so nature has got that ability to bounce back with a bit of help. So we can think about ourselves in that way too. Like, let's give ourselves a bit of help to be able to continue on and find ways to um, get on with things. And so having a response, but then let's think about what is it in a general sense that I'm aiming for. And so part of the Buddha's life story, as you know, is when the prince left the palace, he saw the three sights, the old person walking on a stick that he'd never seen before, somebody who was very sick, he'd never seen that before, and he saw a dead body. So those things were kind of a shock for him and gave him a motivation, if you like. But the fourth thing that he saw was a monk meditating, and this led him to understand that there was an alternative way, an alternative path. So it's called, so he developed this spiritual emotion of pasada, which is to have a reliable way forwards that we can have confidence in. So I think that's another underpinning statement for us as we think about the modern crisis and how we're going to get along. Is what for me is a reliable way forward that I can have confidence in. And so now it's time for our first breakout. And so the things, the topics you may wish to discuss, we'll have about four people in a breakout room. So I'd suggest just do quick introductions and uh, think about have a chat about what are the things that you can draw on in order to respond to modern crisis situations, and what sort of things do you think you can rely on as a to give a reliable way forward that you can have confidence in. So Sophia, when you're ready.
Will do. Yeah, I will open up the rooms now. Um, so they're open now. I think people have received invitations. Yep, and they're slowly leaving. Um, there is like Bankstown, something like some of them may not join.
Yeah.
Bankstown C or something like they're just
Yeah, that's probably
yeah
the recording thing or something, is it? Or
yeah. But I
yeah.
think most of the people have yeah like some people may also have not joined. They're still in the session now. So I may just move people around for those that
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, that's good.
maybe by themselves. Feel like I have way too much power right now. Oh,
Don't
Lana.
let it go to your head, girl.
All right, I'll move Lana to room two. That was great. I think it's nice to hear from like a lay person on the things that we all kind of yeah experience and just kind of hear your experience. You're almost like sharing as like your own practice, and you allowing the space for everyone to also reflect and share their experiences. I think that's really good. Okay, I think each of the rooms are like 3 to 4 people. Yeah.
Now there may be some way for you. I just put a couple of things in the chat, if you can see those.
I can see them, but I'm not in one of the rooms, so I don't know if they can see that. Oh, we can broadcast.
We
So
can broadcast, yes. Mhm.
I can do that. Oh, yeah, discussion questions.
I think I have to stop the screen from going in and out. It might be making people seasick.
That was one of the
Tea sharing. I don't know if you would like to join one of the breakout rooms. Tea sharing? Don't know if they're there.
Yeah, it's sharing. Hi. She's a friend of Ling and I's.
Oh, okay, okay.
So did did you just arrive? So perhaps you could just pop her into a breakout room.
Yeah, I can, I can. All right. I just wasn't sure if, yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Room one. There you go. Okay.
Terrific. I managed to turn off the seasick
Sorry.
thing.
Oh yeah, you're stable now.
Yeah, it's called
Well,
center stage. It's a great feature, but
it was funny because that was something that Zan, different people see it in such different ways.
yeah, it's like, is it good? Well, it's fancy.
I thought it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
See how
Yeah,
big.
so it works in some instances, like if you're pacing up and down or something like that, further away from the screen, it probably is good. Plus, anyway.
Yeah.
So they've been in there for what, probably 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. Let's see.
So if we go to 7:55.
They've been there for 7 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I think we can bring them back now
Yeah? Okay, sure. Happy to.
because we need to get on with it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Close all the rooms. They've got 60 seconds to leave their breakout rooms.
Yep. And so the people can unmute themselves, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if they're going to speak.
Yeah. Would you prefer for them to speak on mute or type messages?
No, well, people can type in, so we'd encourage people to type in, and we just take two people who could say something, so they can put their hands up or something.
Mm.
Hello, New Zealand. Megan and Estelle are in New Zealand.
Welcome back. Hi, Shireen. How are you?
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you met some new friends. And would if a couple of people would like to make a comment, you could stick up your hand or just unmute and talk. And if anybody else would like to comment, please write something in the chat about what came up for you in that discussion.
I'm sorry, someone said that they're unable to unmute. So I'm just going to look at my like the settings for this. And I don't know what's going on. So I will try to fix that.
Yep. Simran. Okay. Yes, Simran.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for having us do breakout rooms. I thought it was quite engaging. So, in my group with Eddie and Lana, what came up was in response to the first prompt regarding what are the things you can draw on to respond. I mentioned that it's like you said, Tom, nature. I like to just look back at what is natural and going and having a response that positions us to go back to what is more aligned with nature rather than pushing forward more technology and artificial advancements can be one way. And I think it was probably the second question that we really enjoyed talking about. But oh, I did want to mention that you're spending time with family, doing things that you like are ways to respond to modern crises, and also limiting screen time or exposure to news can help people to not be so overwhelmed by it. But in terms of what things you can rely on to have confidence, it tied in well because I mentioned that the triple gem was what I can always go back to, and knowing that the teachings are timeless. And for example, when Eddie was talking a lot about technology, and I was saying that actually the fifth precept sentiment to not get ourselves intoxicated could also apply to these things. So there is that timeless element. But Eddie brought up Kalyana Mittas and the role that Kalyana Mittata plays in bringing us back, helping us to restrain ourselves because it is a world out there so easy to get caught up in advertising or YouTube and those things. But having this sort of community like we do now is something that we can always rely on to bring us back to the right values and therefore position a response, not just a reaction.
Very good. Thank you, Simran. All good things.
And Eugene just posted in the chat the good old four Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity are usually a good option.
Thumbs up on that for sure. Anybody else like to make a comment? Don't be shy. You're among friends. Okay, we'll move on. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. So as I've been turning this thing over in my mind some years, um, not so long ago, this thought came to my mind, which is like it's a bit of a mantra for me in a sense, and it goes like this: is that whatever the world throws at me, or whatever my mind brings up, I will put good causes into action. And that really resonated with me because it kind of just covers that whole situation of living. Is it because the world is always bringing things to you, um, and mind is always fairly active, bringing up things all over the place. And so then if I can respond by putting good causes into action, this is a general way of saying how I can deal with the modern crises. And how do I know that I can do that? And so there's um, in reading the suttas, one of the things that really jumped out at me was when the Buddha talked about the four right efforts. And so before he listed the right efforts, the four of them, he had a little preface there, which was to generate enthusiasm, to try, to strive, to exert the mind, and to make an effort. So that, and then he listed the four right efforts. But the very first thing is like generate enthusiasm. And so that by itself really jumped out at me because it's like saying, well, actually, that's something I can do. I can generate enthusiasm. And he's telling me, so when I have faith in, uh, what the Buddha has taught us, then, that's something I can rely on. So he said generate enthusiasm, but then of course it also implies I can generate whole bunches of other things as well that can be applicable to this situation. So I can generate compassion. I can generate metta for the people who are heedlessly polluting, for instance. I can generate forgiveness. And so, this is a key thing is that I remember actually one of my professors, Glenn Albrecht, look him up. He's very good. When we had a residential in Denmark in Western Australia, didn't have to go overseas. He came and said to me like, "Oh yes, so your persona is really suited to this kind of thing that we're doing with sustainability." And persona, what the hell is persona? And so I said, "Oh, thank you very much." I didn't quite know what he meant, but later on, it kind of occurred to me that, oh, okay, so because we talk about in Buddhism about not self, right? And so that was one of the things I did when I was a youngster, was like try and who is it that's watching? Question, trying to find out who it was. But and so because of the not self teaching, well then what am I? And so this thing about persona is like I'm made up of all of these different things, all of these emotions, states of mind, so many different things, things in personality and all this, right? And so this big collection of things actually is what ends up being called Tom. And so and so therefore when the Buddha says generate enthusiasm, he's saying that, well, if you're not feeling enthusiastic, it's actually you can just find it inside yourself because it's part of being a human, or generate whatever else it is. It's in the persona. Just like need to bring it up. Of course, that's easy to say, but often enough, it's not so easy to do. So anyway, there we go. Generate enthusiasm, try, strive, exert the mind, make an effort so that unwholesome states that have arisen are given up. Unwholesome states that have not arisen don't arise, are not arisen. And wholesome states that have not arisen are given rise to, and wholesome states that have arisen are developed, maintained, and continued. And like I said, this is like a really encouraging thing for me and kind of a guideline to follow. And so this is kind of seems to be the basis for saying this thing about whatever the world throws at me, whatever my mind brings up, I'll put good causes into action. And so the four right efforts is kind of give some lift to that. And so how do I apply that? So let's think about things like, so if I'm feeling grief, somebody close to me dies, then there's grief. I can have grief for things that are going on in the ecosystems because of ecosystem destruction or the bushfires we've had in Australia with so many animals being killed and the bush being burnt. And so, what's a good cause to put in action in the face of grief? I don't think it's like push grief aside. No. Because we know well, I think, that grieving is an important natural human process. It is human to grieve, and it's something that we need to do. So if we understand that and allow ourselves to grieve, then we're putting a good cause into action. So it's not just about being happy, happy, happy. Because like while you're grieving, you're not happy, right? But at the same time, I can know that this is the right thing to do. This is the good cause to put into place to allow myself to go through the grieving process and come to acceptance, forgiveness, etc. afterwards. Well, and the other thing about putting a good cause into action is, sometimes it's just not possible because it, I just get so overwhelmed. I mean, it happened to me the other day. What was it? I can't remember what it was, but I was feeling a bit ratty and I could see it, but whatever I was thinking about, oh, okay, I'm going to change my state of mind. But no, I could not change my state of mind. It was just sitting there like a lump of concrete. And so it's kind of overwhelming in that sense, um, and not always easy to shift. But well, then, if I'm still cognizant of what's going on, I understand what's going on, I can see it, then I can say, oh, okay, I'm sitting with feeling ratty for a while. And of course, thankfully, impermanence applies, and over a time, it kind of moves on. So all these kind of dynamics come into play, um, and it's not just about happy, happy, happy by any means. It's about like having the spirit of living to be a human and having this guidance we have from our spiritual teachers. You don't have to be a Buddhist to like get good guidance from your spiritual teacher and go through our lives dealing with these things. Even though it might be existential, it's like tough as it might be, then if we can accept it and we can go through it. So there's another thing that jumped out at me in the sutras is there's a place in the sutta where the Buddha said, "Let not hatred arise for the hateful." This is another super thing for me. So, because that statement acknowledges that there are hateful things, and if we allow ourselves to, then we can have hatred for them, or we can work on shifting our mind to have some other response to that. So you don't have to look far to find hateful things. But then what else can we give rise to when we're looking at those situations? Compassion, forgiveness, understanding, looking more deeply into the causes and conditions of those things, or what people are doing. And so this is a lot about working with mind and heart and applying ourselves to the situation, applying myself to the situation. And it's a constant thing. And then when I think about what is it that I can do because of these global problems, I mean, what's the news like these days? It's all the news, all the time, from everywhere, and all the bad news. It's like, that's enough to make you feel a bit unhappy. And like we know from cognitive science too, it's like our brains are still wired to pick up on bad news because it's trying to protect us. Our brain is trying to protect us by looking out for danger. Unfortunately, the news channels know that. And it's a way that they can influence us to be engaged with what it is that they are presenting. Thankfully, we have practice of mindfulness. And so, if we can see what's happening in those situations, be mindful about what the interaction is between ourselves and bad news items, is that we can start to do something about that or have a different attitude to it rather than just be horrified, is to have a more compassionate and forgiving attitude or something like that towards bad news. And so there's some other things that uh, I like to use which resonate with me. So one of them is something that Master Xing Yun said is that the bridge between suffering and happiness can be crossed by a single thought. That's quite a powerful statement. And, sometimes you can't really see that. But if I said to myself, okay, well, that's true all the time, but I don't always know what that single thought is that will take me from the bridge of suffering, take me across the bridge from suffering to happiness. But I certainly have experienced situations where, so one situation in my IT work, I had colleagues who spoke a different language, and sometimes we'd be having a conversation, and all of a sudden they'd start talking amongst themselves in their own language, and I didn't know what was going on. And I used to get a tad peeved, otherwise known as cranky. And I didn't tell them that, but eventually I realized it was because I was feeling left out. And the thought that helped me to get over this was that I can rejoice in the merits of others. And so once I said that to myself, well, when that situation repeated, then I could say, I rejoice in the merits of those folks because they're able to have a conversation in their native tongue and communicate like at ease and fully. And so I can be happy about that situation instead of feeling left out. So that was a demonstration of the bridge between suffering and happiness can be crossed in a single thought. Okay, so time for another breakout. And so this time we'll have opportunity to think about and discuss the kinds of things you already would be applying to deal with this situation, or uh, find out, explore what things you might like to do and try to help navigate through, navigate and have a response to the things about the modern crises that are affecting you. Where you go, Sophia.
They've been split. Would you like to type the question in the chat?
Sure.
And I can also broadcast it to each of the breakout rooms.
Great.
Simran,
Can I go back to room 2, please?
yes.
I'm
Um,
not sure.
let me see
Oh,
how
join breakout room. Yep. Okay.
you can do that. Okay.
Huh? She's gone.
She's gone.
Good, worked.
It worked. And we've got PH, Ku, and Ariani here. I can also move them when they ask for it.
Cool.
Mhm.
How long's that been now, Sophie?
Around 5 minutes.
Okay, 2 more minutes. I can still hear Ling talking. She's in the other room, so because we're coming up, guys, 8:30, approaching rapidly.
Yeah, that's right. Did you want to do a Q&A before we finish up or?
Yeah, so I don't think we'll have another breakout. I'll just do a wrap up and then we can have a chat, a plenary Q&A or whatever. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. And yeah, we do finish at 8:30, but if there's further questions, would you be okay with extending or we can just finish up?
Happy to stay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good. I'm just thinking if people would have questions. I'm not sure.
Yeah, hopefully. Or comments.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's like we've got to work all this stuff out together, and and I'm sure people have been come to grips with this in their own way, and they very well have great things to share.
Yeah, I'm the same view as you. Like everyone has their own practice and
Hmm.
things that work for them and don't work for them. And yeah, we'll have a lot of things that wisdom that is already in each of us.
Yeah, so I think as a community, um, talking about it and discussing it and doing things together around this is a great support and learning for us all and can help us get through.
Yeah. So Tom, do you do these sessions in Nantian as well, or?
Um, we used to do a monthly session with the spiritual environmental preservation practice, which I'm doing 2 sessions with Metta Center in September.
Oh, okay, cool.
So this would be along these similar lines, um, but bringing the spiritual into the environmental.
So nice. I love that.
Yes. Yeah, we don't want to forget it.
Definitely unashamedly or
Unashamedly, yes.
unashamedly for sure.
That's right. It's a part of being a human, for goodness sake.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like being part of nature is itself very spiritual. Like I have a friend who is atheist and he doesn't believe there's a God or anything outside of what he can see, but he's very spiritual. Like his way of spirituality is connecting with nature. And I
There
found
you go.
yeah.
Yes.
He's like one of the kindest person out there. So
Yeah. Terrific.
yeah.
Okay, let's bring it back.
Back? Okay. How was that meditation, by the way? How did you find the sensations meditation at the beginning?
That was very nice after a bit of running around today and just it works magic. Settling down.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
just gently paying attention to things.
It was a great meditation, Soph. Well done.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't sure it was my first time doing a sensations meditation, so
Okay, cool.
that's received. Thank you. Welcome back, Eugene, Ellie, Nikki.
Hello, everybody. Now we're getting close to 8:30, so I would just finish off with some concluding remarks, and then we can have plenary uh, where we can have a chat and any questions or comments would be much appreciated. So just to wrap up a bit, I was thinking about all why, what's the motivation to do this thing about whatever the world presents to me, whatever my mind brings up, I'll put good causes into action so that I can joyfully put my intentions into play with ease and grace and be of service and have well-being of body, mind, and spirit. And so I think that kind of rounds out the situation for me. The approach is to be clear about the why that we're doing it. Because that's a bit of a motivation and an intention. And so the other thing is to energize that. So another way of saying what I've said there is I vow that whatever the world presents to me, whatever the world brings up, I vow that I will put good causes into action. And so that puts more energy into it and makes an impression on my mind about having the discipline to keep that in mind and keep working to apply it as best I can uh, in amongst all the ups and downs and ins and outs that go on. So a vow is different to a goal, I believe. A goal is much more specific. I'm going to get there, right? But a vow is kind of more for me. It's more about setting a direction, setting a course, and being clear on that and energizing towards that, following that course of action, following that course, rather than just have like some endpoint where you get to have a celebration. And of course, one of my challenges too is to keep my attention where I intend. So the masters of eyeball grabbing, as in like the social media feeds, are really, some people even call that the attention economy because it's all about getting our attention. Because where we put our attention, our energy flows. And so that's another thing about having vows. Like it helps me to remember to keep my attention on what I decide where where I want my intention to go, rather than what other people want to do with my attention, which is, I mean, I love YouTube, so this is a bit of a trap for me. And of course, the reason that they want to grab your attention is so they can show you one or two ads. Right. So the attention grabbers. But then what is it that I do with in putting this into action in the world is certainly one of the big things is hanging out with people who are good dharma company and just good friends and family. That's a big thing. Having little projects and do things that I can in my circle of influence. This is one of the things about being a climate campaigner is you're trying to influence the government. I mean, it's all right to do that, of course, but you got to realize that it's like turning the Queen Mary ship in a different direction is probably easier than trying to influence the government. But I can do things like go up and down my street and pick up plastic. So this bit of plastic that I pick up is not going to end up inside a dolphin or a fish or something. It goes in the rubbish bin. That's my little plastic pickup mantra. So there's plenty of things we can do, small or great. And so I look forward to having more conversations with you all about this, and so that we can support each other along this journey. And when times get tough, that we can support each other in tough times and continue to have metta and love for each other as we navigate these modern times.
Wow. Thank you so much, Tom, for this wonderful talk and heartfelt sharing. Um, I love all your stories and very relatable stories that we all experience as lay people. And I love hearing about your approaches to how you deal with the modern crises, the big and small discomforts, and the various hindrances in our own minds as well. So thank you so much for sharing that with us as well. And also, thank you for creating a space for everyone to have a conversation every time when people join the breakout rooms and come back. I see lots of smiling faces and connections formed. So that's also so beautiful. So yeah, thank you for those opportunities. Gosh, like I feel like I've taken away so much. One of the things I just texted to my partner Richard is where intention goes or where attention goes, where is our energy. And that's so powerful, like to guard our minds and where our attention is. And I'm sure all of us have taken something valuable away from this session too. So yeah, I'll make some announcements. We can do a bit of dedication of merits, and if you have any questions for Tom, he's offered to stay back for those questions as well. So you're welcome to stay back and ask the questions. So yeah, so shall we close off with the dedication of merits first, Tom, and then we can I would make some announcements and we can jump to Q&A.
Oh, would you like me to dedicate merits?
Would you like to, or I'm happy to as
Oh,
well.
yes, please, you do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just sitting where you are, reflecting on the good we have done today in sharing and reflecting on the Dharma together. May the good we have done be shared with all beings in all realms of existence. May the merits be shared with the guardian devas, with our debtors, with our deceased relatives, and may all beings be well, be safe, be happy, and be free from suffering, and know the causes to being free from suffering.
Jolly good.
Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Ah,
sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu. So next coming up, we have this Wednesday, why we should become skilled in the ways of our own mind. That's those Wednesday sessions are in Parramatta in person and online at 7 to 8:30. We have also have Santee Sunday this Sunday, 27th of July, and Eugene, our guardian of Santee Sundays, is online. He's there every month. Those are really fun ways for the family to come together, listen to Dharma talk, do some fun activities. And Ling is often there with Tai Chi exercises and tea ceremonies. Yay! So lots of fun. And then we have next Monday, Exploring the Middle Way with Bhante Metta Vihari. And then we have free mindful yoga as well on Tuesdays, which is tomorrow, Tuesday, next Tuesday, between 6:30 to 7:30 in person in Bankstown and online. And yeah, we have, if you haven't heard already, I'm sure Tina has talked about it every week. We have our 10-year anniversary coming up in November. So that's very exciting. We have monastics coming from overseas and in Sydney coming together for the convention. We're gonna have the 8th and the 9th, a series of talks and workshops. And the 15th, we're gonna have a mega dana, which is we all can all offer dana to all the different monastics in different traditions. So book your calendars. It's gonna be a really fun week, 2 weekends of connection with spiritual friends and learning the Dharma together and celebrating the 10 years of Medicine Center. And I think that is all. for today, for now. Hope everyone had a lovely time today and have a lovely week ahead. Maybe see you on Wednesday. If not, see you next week. Oh, and if you have any questions, please feel free to stay online. And Tom has offered to answer the questions, or we can have a discussion. So, yeah. Thank you.